Hello, philosophy of alcohol folks. Happy fourth week of our kind of new normal here. I hope that this video finds you all well. I hope that you are in good spirits. I hope that you're surrounded by good people and you are staying safe amidst all this craziness. I hope that you enjoyed and at least felt interested in last week's discussion on feminism and then kind of where we took that conversation last Thursday as it related to kind of like masculine and feminine drinking. I really enjoyed reading your submissions. And I think that as you kind of move forward, whether or not you consume alcohol or not, but I think as you move forward, you'll be able to pay a little bit more attention to kind of how these norms perpetuate themselves and they go unquestioned. I think, one of the aims of the feminist is once you start to kind of draw attention to where and how these norms don't really ever get questioned, you can kind of start to see how to break down some of these norms because they really make no sense, right? And that's where, I think many of you went with your reflections is, there's no kind of inherent betterment or worsening of one drink over another. But societally speaking, right, when we think about kind of societally speaking and we think about, masculinity as the dominant kind of, characteristic to be valued over femininity, then perhaps that there's this association of, masculine drinks are better than feminine drinks, when really that doesn't make any sense, right? And to kind of continue to break down these gender norms, to break down these kind of like engendered ways of thinking is an important aspect of feminist thought. And so I hope that going forward, you're able to kind of recognize that. You're able to kind of like maybe call out your friends and family if they do or say something sexist, even though they won't think it's sexist, because again, sexism has such a heavy connotation to it. But in fact, right, whenever we kind of gender a drink or whenever we, make fun of glassware or something like that, that is sexism, right? And perhaps needs to be called attention to. And you can do that playfully, right? And even, when I have the opportunity and kind of when I make, depending on the context, but like, if somebody says, even my dad, for instance, when he's like, I'm not going to drink out of a stemware, I'm like, well, why, Dad? Like, it's not going to kill you. Go for it, right? I'm not going to think anything less of you. And just see if you can kind of like, again, start to dismantle some of these webs of thinking that have been so entrenched in problematic ways, perhaps. So, again, kind of thinking about that and kind of like having a space to actually engage in that, I think is really important. All right, so now this week. So here we begin this fourth week. And the way that I build this kind of, in the classroom in particular is definitely in a space that is challenging. It's a space that can be difficult and hard. But that's some of the conversations that we have to have in this overall discussion on the philosophy of alcohol. And so this week particularly might be very difficult. It might be very uncomfortable for some. It might be very touchy for some. And so I want to be respectful of that. I want to be conscientious of that. But also, I think to be integral to the topic, to be integral to the course, and to be just kind of like, again, allowing for these conversations that I feel like need to have happen. We're going to talk about some tough stuff. And in particular today, we're going to look at an article, and you can see that it's referenced there in your folder. But it's going to be evaluating hookup culture. And I think that it's an important kind of question to ask. It's an important conversation to have, especially in the context of drinking, especially in the context of college atmosphere, party culture, drinking culture. And so it might be difficult. And then on, and then on Thursday, and this will be even more probably of a difficult discussion. And so again, I want to kind of like, prepare you all for that. But the title of the article is Alcohol and Rape. And again, I know that that's going to be very hard for some to engage with, and I hope that you can kind of approach it in a very, again, kind of respectful and you can approach it in a way that doesn't feel triggering, that doesn't feel all too intense. But again, I think for the overall context of our course, we have to have topics, we have to have conversations like this. We have to kind of allow a space to engage in these conversations that we kind of know exist in the world of alcohol, in the world of especially drinking on college campuses. And I think that it would be a disservice, frankly, not to discuss these things. So those are some precursory remarks, and so in the next couple of videos, we're going to unpack this article by Connor Kelly, which is titled "Feminist Ethics: Evaluating Hookup Culture." Okay, so there might be more to say there as we kind of dive in and kind of be aware of, but just so you all know that that's kind of what to expect this week. Okay. Cheers.